Okay, so I'm here with Miss Lopes. Hello, Miss Lopes.
Hi, Dave. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, yeah. I got Wiley producing today. Thank you, Wiley.
You're welcome.
That was enthusiastic. All right, so... All right, Miss Lopes, we're here to talk today about DDMs, which everyone I know loves so much.
Mm-hmm. DDMs. Tell everyone why you chose this topic, Dave.
I for one just took a DDM and wasn't thrilled about it. And I had you last year, and I know that you love DDMs so much.
Probably just as much as the students do.
Yes, so I figured you would be the perfect person to talk about them with.
Sure. I hope I don't get myself fired. But, do you know what DDM stands for?
I don't. I know nothing about them.
DDM stands for District Determined Measure. District meaning the schools, the departments decide what it's going to be. Mm-hmm. And it measures student growth, student learning. So I always explain it to the students, like if you've ever been, your parents put you up against the wall, made a little mark over your head when you were, this, and then a year later they did the same thing and they did the same. Then you step back and look how much you've grown. So it's supposed to measure student growth and student learning and provide us with data to use to see how our students are progressing and accessing or mastering content or approaching mastery of content and skills and all that fun stuff.
I know personally, like from the student perspective, like no one tries on them. It
well,
seems like a waste.
That I'm glad you said that, because as a teacher,
mm-hmm.
When I'm administering a DDM, which in English is usually some type of open response or SAT-ish type prompt, it's usually writing. For ninth graders, it's more of like an MCAS-y type prompt. So, whatever grade where we want to see, okay, this is where they're starting. This is the starting point. And hopefully in May we see that they've developed to where we want them to be. But from a teacher perspective, and on a day where I'm administering a DDM, I kind of be a cheerleader and say, I know you don't want to do it, but do your best on this. Do your best, like whatever. It's I don't want kids to stress out about it. I don't like it. I don't usually have it impact their grade in any way in the class, but I still want them to do their best.
Yeah.
And if it's a day when kids don't feel like writing, and all of a sudden the heads go down, or they're done in 10 minutes, and they should be taking up to 30 minutes. That's where I think a big question mark comes in as to the validity of the data that we're gathering from these DDMs. Is it accurate? Is it an accurate reflection of student ability if they're coming into it not really showing us what they can do because they're tired, because they're mad, because they had a late night, whatever it happens to be. So there's that issue for sure.
Yeah, I know. Also, like this happened last year with like if teachers like in the middle of a lesson or whatever, if like they have like a plan for their week, or like I don't know how teachers like plan out, but I'm assuming that they like have a lesson plan for like a book or whatever, and they have a certain timeline. I feel like the DDM sort of throws a wrench in that. And then my English teacher today, she was correcting DDMs instead of correcting like our work and like backing everything up like when grades are closing.
Yeah. I mean that's a huge pet peeve of mine. It seems like an interruption. It probably seems like an interruption for students to be in the middle of talking about a novel and then say, okay, well today we're going to stop for a minute because we have to do this and it has to be done by this date, so that we have that data, from early in the year, usually September, ideally. So it can seem very disconnected from everything else we're doing, and it's true. There's a lot of other things going on. The beginning of school is a busy time. The development of getting together with other teachers in departments to say, okay, what is our DDM going to be this year? Do we want to change it from last year? That takes a certain amount of time, whether it's a department meeting time or an early release day time. A good amount of time has been dedicated to creating DDMs and then scoring them. Yeah. And from an English teacher perspective, maybe you could speak to this. I don't know from experience. Some teachers can barely keep up with the grading that they have day to day, or a large honors class of 25 kids who hands in a 3 to 4 page paper, and you've got those looming, and you want those on a marking term first quarter, like, which one do you do first, you know?
Yeah.
But the DDMs have to be scored, and they want to be
scored,
counted,
yeah.
and the data has to be entered in a program, so it numbers and all this
Isn't that all
craziness.
subjective too, though? Because it's different English teachers grading them, so isn't the scoring subjective?
Well, I you could look at it that way. You could look at it as being more objective, because I might be more preferential to my own students
Yeah.
and say, well, for them, this is really good. I'm going to give it this grade. Where someone else doesn't know the student, says, looks at it for really what it is.
But do, like, if I write my DDM in September and it goes to a different teacher, which it probably should, like you said.
It does. We try
does
to do
my
that.
second DDM go to that same
Go to the
teacher?
same teacher. That's a great question. Usually, again, I can only speak for the English department because I haven't surveyed other teachers.
I
But
didn't even know other departments gave DDMs.
I think all the major subject areas have to.
I've like never taken a DDM in another subject.
Maybe you don't know it's a DDM though.
Maybe
You're just
that's
doing it.
true, yeah.
You took one in TV, David.
I did?
Yeah.
What was it?
It was one of the tests we gave you last year.
You didn't even know.
Probably didn't
And then
do
we
too
gave
good
you
on
the
it.
same test again.
Yeah. Did I
See?
do better?
Tricky like that.
Yeah, you might not
Yeah,
even
might
know.
not
So I'm
know,
sure
yeah.
you have. I'm
Yeah.
sure you have. But again, because sometimes it seems like to me such a disconnect from the current novel we're reading or whatever we're
Yeah.
doing in class, I usually tell students ahead of time, like, okay, this is DDM 1, do well, blah, blah, blah. But in the English department, like I said, so all the 11th grade teachers will trade papers with another 11th grade teacher.
Yeah.
But if I trade papers with Miss Amiano, for example,
Yeah.
I don't think we kept track to say for the second DDM we trade with the same teachers with the same students.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'd remember anyway
Yeah.
by name of who we scored
Wasn't-
and who we didn't.
Most of like remembering the student, but like their grading style. Because if you're trying to measure growth,
That's a great point. That's a
wouldn't
great point.
I feel like that the same teacher should grade
Yep,
both because
yep.
one teacher could grade harder
Yep.
than the other.
One of our October early release days in the English department, what the teachers did, what 11th grade teachers did, is we created a, because the 11th grade DDM is I want to say 0 through 6 scale, kind of like the SAT scoring
Yeah.
guide. We decided, okay, if it's a 6, it has to have these things.
Yeah.
If it's a 5, we're looking for these things. For example, it might be, the student uses concrete examples, not hypotheticals,
Yeah.
as evidence. And so we really articulated what we were looking for so that it would be consistent.
Yeah.
And that the scoring differentiation or different scoring grading styles for teachers would be more consistent
Yeah.
with this assessment.
get a
Because I think
better
we all
picture.
know through high school, through college, you hear, oh, that person grades really hard. Oh,
Yeah.
that person grades really easy. And it's
Yeah.
all relative and perspective. But for the DDMs, it
It's
is really
supposed to be,
important to be
yeah.
consistent. And not get higher or lower depending on who's grading it. So that was pretty helpful what we did in October, and saying, okay, literally, in some Google Doc that we all shared, made an actual rubric and said, if it's a 6, it's got to have these things. If it's a 5, it's got to have these things.
So when you guys make the prompts, do you try to make them equal difficulty, so to say?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And we do, we look at sample because the 11th grade one is persuasive in nature. So it's usually taking a position and then backing it up with supporting evidence from your readings, from your experience, from other disciplines, from current events. You can bring that all in. So it's not like your MCAS in life as in literature. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we look at 5 or 6 SAT type questions and either form ours from theirs, tweak theirs to fit, and try to we definitely say can the kids do this? Have they read enough stuff? Have they is it accessible? Will they understand? Because you don't want to prompt that goes over their head and then everyone struggles with it. It shouldn't be a struggle. It should be really just a measuring stick of what skills you come in with and what skills you're leaving with.
So, Miss Lopes, what would you do to change DDMs? Because I guess you can't just completely eliminate them. If you could alter them and to be better suited for teachers, like what would your suggestions be?
Oh God, I don't know. That's a tough question. I mean, I agree. I think it's great to have that kind of intake and say, okay,
it is important.
this is where my students are now. It's September. I can look at it and maybe pick out a couple things. And it's supposed to inform our instruction. It's supposed to inform, you know, what we do in the classroom directly. Saying, okay, well, in this essay, you know, for example, all of my students seem to write in passive voice. I'm going to fix that. That's something I'm going to focus on. Yeah. And then, you know, see where they are, you know, at the end of the year. So I like the idea of the measuring part, measuring growth. I like the idea that it can inform your instruction. What I struggle with is, you know, the accuracy of the data. Like you said, if a kid doesn't try, how accurate is it? If a kid doesn't try in June, let's face it, you guys are tested and tested and tested. Sophomores have MCAS, juniors are facing SATs, AP exams, seniors are checked out completely by that time.
I'm checked out by December.
Yeah, so you're looking at a May administration of a DDM. Yeah. And if kids have checked out and said, I'm not doing this again, then really how can you use that data to say, you know, if it's considered in teacher evaluation process, and say, you know, how is that an accurate measure of the teacher's performance? If students legit aren't putting their best effort on a DDM.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'd rather looking at the whole year picture of, you know, student growth in that way. And there's other ways to measure that too. So I'm not, you know, like absolutely against the idea of measuring the student growth and using that to inform instruction. I definitely have issues with how much it determines, you know, what we call, like, I think it's called student impact rating or something, like how effective teachers are being, if you consider those other factors we just talked about. So I don't know how it would look different. I haven't really kind of had time to sit down and think about how I would change it. But, you know, there's all those concerns that you've raised. And it seems like students almost have a lot of the same things to say about it as some of the teachers do.
Yeah, I don't like them. They're not fun.
Yeah.
Not fun. They kind of ruin the lesson, kind of ruin, like, the flow of the class, like, when you're trying to get into a book and, like, some books are tough to get into, you know, and then you're trying to, like, stay focused on it, and, like, you take that break to write about something that you don't really try on.
Yeah.
So.
Let me ask you this. How do once you take the DDM, do you ever see it again?
No.
Do you ever find out how you did on it?
No.
So that's kind of an interesting thing to think about too.
Yeah.
Is what you know, are we doing it because we're supposed to do it? Yeah. Or are we doing it because it needs to be meaningful? If it's not meaningful to teachers and it's not meaningful to students, we definitely have to re-examine why we're doing it. Not just because the Department of Education says you have to do it. Yeah. And so we say, okay, we'll do it. If it's not meaningful to students or to teachers, we have to look at it a little more closely.
It's a good point, because if I got my DDM back and it had, like, corrections on it and, like, what I did wrong and, like, what I could do to be better as a writer, then I feel like they'd be a lot more beneficial. Like, there's no point in me trying to write something. It doesn't count towards my grade. I'm not gonna get it back. So even if I try my best on it and I get corrections back, like, it'd sort of be like when you write an essay, like a rough draft, and you get it back and you see the corrections as to, like, what you need to improve on. It could sort of be like that. It could judge like where I'm at as a student. I could, like, get a more accurate picture of, like, how I'm
and that's something I've been guilty of, I think, as well, as getting, because that's, to me, that's another day's lesson. Yeah. Today I'm going to give back the DDMs. We're going to try to look at some exemplars, like who got a 5, who got close to a 6, you know, who got a 6.
Sort of like MCAS preparation.
And that's the other thing. At the beginning of DDMs, we don't have exemplars to draw from it and show students, okay, this is a 6. This is what it looks like. And so if I'm not saying, okay, I'm going to take a half a class to give back the DDMs, to have kids reread what they wrote, and we certainly don't, again, the time element. If I'm grading another teacher's stack of DDM responses, I'm not writing comments on them all like I do with essays. There's no way. There's no way. It's not realistic. So we look at it holistically. We put the number on it, and then we give them back. So when my sets come back to me, I usually put them in the writing folder. I give them back, say, this is what you got, but don't spend as much time as I probably should saying, this is what the number means. This is what you could have done to get a higher score. So that instruction that should take place will yield better results in the end. So that's good. But again, it's a whole nother time element that you're dealing with too.
I feel like what I've gathered from this is the biggest issue is the timing and the deadlines.
Timing, deadlines.
I feel like a lot of the other issues could be improved if teachers had more time to.
And I feel bad for 10th graders. I mean, they're doing.
10th grade.
They have a big chunk of 10th grade is testing.
Yeah.
You know, you get 3 days of the ELA MCAS, you get a couple days of math, a couple days of science.
Yeah.
It's in the spring.
It's rough.
You know, so
yeah.
DDMs are, I want to say it's the bane of many teachers' existence in the past couple years, so.
Okay. Ms. Lopes, thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
Because you have
I'd love to come back anytime and chat again. All right. Awesome.
All right. Bye. Thank you, Ms. Lopes.
You're welcome.
Funky down. Nasty.
Hey, listen to the man.